You don't act like a man because you're exhausted from pretending to be one. Every day you wake up and put on the mask, the calm face, the steady voice, the illusion that you're in control. But underneath, you're cracking. You feel it in the silence, in the way your chest tightens for no reason, in the way you stare at the ceiling at 2 wondering when life stopped feeling real. You tell yourself it's normal, everyone's tired, everyone's struggling. But deep down, you know it's more than that. You've lost something inside you, and you don't even know when it happened. It starts slow. You stop speaking about what hurts. You stop feeling things deeply. You get used to pretending that nothing affects you. You go through the motions, working, scrolling, surviving, but never really living. You call it maturity, but it's not. It's emotional numbness. You've convinced yourself that silence is strength, but the truth is you're just scared. Scared that if you let it out, the anger, the disappointment, the loneliness, you might fall apart completely. So you stay quiet, hoping no one notices. But they do. They just don't care enough to ask. You see, that's what this world did to you. It told you that being a man means showing no weakness, needing no one, and feeling nothing. It convinced you that strength is about control, not honesty. So now you fake confidence instead of building it. You chase distraction instead of direction. You smile in rooms where you want to scream. You show up for everyone except yourself. And when you're alone, the silence feels heavier than the world itself. That's not manhood. That's survival. And survival is not living. You need to understand, being a man isn't about how much you can carry. It's about why you're carrying it. It's about facing your pain with open eyes. About refusing to let fear turn you cold. It's about responsibility, not as a burden, but as an anchor. When you start showing up with honesty, when you stop chasing validation and start living with integrity, that's when something inside you shifts. That's when you stop reacting and start leading. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stop running from the truth. Because the truth is, life will always test you. But what defines you is not the test, it's your response to it. It's in those quiet moments, when no one's watching, that manhood is born. So stop pretending. Stop chasing the image of a man and start becoming one. Because the world doesn't respect how loud you roar. It respects how steady you stand when everything inside you is breaking. You've been carrying emotions you never named. Anger that isn't really anger, sadness that hides behind sarcasm, fear that wears the mask of control. You call it stress, frustration, exhaustion. But deep down, it's pain. Pain you never gave space to. Pain you buried under distractions, under people, under endless tasks that keep you from feeling what's real. You keep yourself busy because you're terrified of stillness. Stillness means you'd have to face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. The guilt, the regret, the confusion, the truth that maybe you don't know who you are anymore. Most men never learn how to deal with pain, only how to hide it. They silence it with work, drown it in noise, or numb it with temporary pleasures that leave them emptier each time. And the world applauds it. It calls it toughness. But it's not strength, it's escape. Because true strength isn't the ability to suppress emotion. It's the courage to face it without losing yourself to it. That's the real test. Can you sit in discomfort without reaching for an escape? Can you admit you're lost without collapsing into self-pity? Can you feel your pain and still move forward? That's where manhood begins, not in control, but in acceptance. You have to understand that emotion isn't weakness. It's awareness. It's the language of the soul trying to tell you where you're bleeding. When you shut it out, you lose direction. When you listen, you heal. Every man who learns to feel learns to see. And every man who learns to see stops living on autopilot. You can't fix what you won't face, and you can't grow from what you refuse to feel. So let yourself feel it, the anger, the fear, the emptiness. Not to drown in it, but to understand it. Because emotion, when faced with truth, becomes power. The way out isn't to be colder, it's to be clearer. Clarity gives you strength that pride never will. Once you understand what you're carrying, you can decide what's worth keeping. You start separating noise from purpose, ego from peace, reaction from response. You stop needing to prove yourself and start working on yourself. That's when you start to breathe again. That's when silence stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like peace. This is what they never told you. Strength isn't built in the gym, or on the battlefield, or in the grind. It's built in the quiet honesty of your own mind. When you stop running, when you stop lying, when you finally face yourself and say, I'm done pretending, that's when you begin to rise. Because a man who can stand in his truth, no matter how broken it looks, will always stand taller than the one hiding behind perfection. There's a point when you stop being angry and just feel tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that settles deep in your chest, where hope used to live. You look around and realize you've been trying to be everything for everyone, except honest with yourself. You've been the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks. And for what? So people can keep needing you without ever truly seeing you. So you can keep proving a strength that's been eating you alive. You've built walls so high that even you forgot what's inside them. You don't talk anymore. You manage. You don't cry. You hold. You don't live. You endure. And somehow that became normal. But it's not normal. It's quiet self-destruction. The slow kind that looks like discipline on the surface, but feels like emptiness underneath. You're not just tired of life. You're tired of carrying a version of yourself that doesn't breathe. You've mistaken isolation for peace and emotional shutdown for control. That's not healing. That's hiding. And what hides too long begins to rot. The truth is, being numb isn't safe. It's dangerous. Because when you stop feeling, you stop caring. When you stop caring, you stop trying. And when you stop trying, life slips through your fingers while you're still standing there pretending to have it together. You have to understand that breaking doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. There's courage in letting go. There's power in admitting, I'm not okay. Because that moment right there is where rebuilding begins. You can't repair what you refuse to acknowledge. You can't heal from a wound you keep denying exists. The man you're trying so hard to protect, the composed one, the silent one, he doesn't need protection. He needs honesty. He needs you to stop pretending to be unshakable and start learning how to bend without breaking. Start small. Tell the truth, even when it makes your voice shake. Set boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect your peace. Rest, not because you're weak, but because even warriors need to recover. The goal isn't to feel less, it's to feel more without losing control. Because when you let emotion flow through you instead of over you, it sharpens you. It teaches you patience, humility, empathy. It turns pain into awareness. You're not supposed to be unbreakable. You're supposed to be unshakably honest. That's where your strength lies, in truth, not in silence. The man who faces himself doesn't need the world's approval. He moves with calm conviction because he knows who he is and what he stands for. And when you finally reach that point, when you can stand in your truth without flinching, you stop trying to be a man. You simply become one. There's a silence that comes after you've been broken enough times. Not peaceful, not calm, just hollow. It's the kind of silence where your thoughts echo louder than voices. You stop arguing. You stop explaining. You stop trying to convince people to understand you, because you finally realize they never will. And that's the moment something inside you changes. You start to see how much energy you've wasted on proving your worth to people who never knew how to value it. You start to understand that most of your battles were never against others. They were against your own need to be seen. You've been chasing recognition instead of direction, approval instead of purpose. You wanted to be understood when what you really needed was to understand yourself. This is where the rebuilding begins, in the quiet, where no one claps for you. Growth doesn't happen when life feels good. It happens when you finally stop pretending and start working on what's real. It's when you wake up one morning and decide you're done carrying old versions of yourself. You stop trying to return to who you were before the pain, and instead, you learn to build someone new from it. That's maturity. Not pretending everything's fine, but taking responsibility for how you respond when it isn't. You start to move differently. You speak less, but your words carry more truth. You forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you refuse to let anger control your story. You stop showing up in rooms that drain you just to prove your loyalty. You stop explaining your silence. You stop apologizing for needing peace. That's when people start noticing the change. Not because you've become louder, but because you become grounded. The man who once reacted to everything now responds to nothing that costs his peace. The one who once needed to be right now only needs to be real. It's not about becoming emotionless. It's about mastering emotion through understanding, not suppression. You don't need to be cold to be strong. You just need to be clear. Clarity gives you power that fear never will. When you know who you are, you stop negotiating your worth. When you know what you stand for, you stop explaining yourself to people who only listen to argue. You begin to carry yourself differently, not because you've changed on the outside, but because you finally made peace with what's inside. That's what acting like a man really means. To live with quiet conviction, to move with intention, to hold yourself accountable without losing your humanity. The world won't understand it, but that's the point. You didn't come here to be understood. You came here to become undeniable. And when you finally stop needing to prove you're a man, that's when you finally start being one. At some point, you realize that the world isn't testing you, it's revealing you. Every setback, every betrayal, every failure strips away another layer of who you thought you were, until what's left is raw, unfiltered truth. And the truth is, most of your suffering came from resistance, from trying to hold on to things that were meant to leave. from forcing people to stay, from fighting for validation that was never yours to earn. You called it loyalty. You called it love. But really it was fear, the fear of being alone with yourself. Because solitude forces you to face what distraction once hid. It shows you how loud your insecurities are, how fragile your confidence is, how easily your peace depends on others. That's not strength. That's dependency dressed as devotion. You have to let it break. Let the world's weight press against you until you stop flinching. You can't learn resilience from comfort. You can't find purpose in ease. Growth begins where comfort ends. And yes, it will hurt. It's supposed to. You're shedding parts of yourself that were built to please others. The boy inside you who needed approval is dying so the man can finally breathe. The pain you feel isn't punishment, it's purification. Every time life knocks you down, it's not saying you're weak. It's asking, are you done pretending yet? When you stop resisting, something powerful happens. You stop needing control over everything. You start trusting your effort, not the outcome. You begin to see that discipline isn't about force, it's about peace. It's the quiet knowing that you've done what you could, and whatever comes next, you'll face it with calm eyes. That's what true stability looks like. It's not about being untouchable, it's about being unshaken. You still feel pain, but you no longer drown in it. You still face chaos, but it doesn't own your mind. You start living with a quiet strength that doesn't need to announce itself. That's the man you're becoming, the one who builds himself from within, not from applause, not from fear, not from the opinions of others. You start showing up differently. You stop explaining your journey to those who mock the struggle they've never had the courage to face. You stop chasing peace from people who live in noise. You stop expecting softness from those who only understand power, because now your power is silence. Your strength is consistency. Your worth is defined by your own reflection. Life will not get easier. You will just get clearer. You'll stop running toward meaning and start creating it. You'll realize that real manhood was never about dominance. It was about depth. Not about control, but composure. Not about being perfect, but being true. And when that truth finally settles into your bones, you'll stop asking what it means to act like a man, because you'll already be living it.